And go live.
Now we're live. I'll pick up the link. Yes, we are.
Yawning.
Should we mention that we're going to have spoilers yet?
Might be a good idea. Yeah, I think that's kind of a given.
Spoilers.
Okay. Where's the video? There it is. Okay. Now we're live. I'll pick up the link. Yes, we are. Go away. Shut up. Online.
Did I mention that I figured out how to do the Q&A? In case anyone wants to try that out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like mostly mobile too. It depends on where you click the thingy to watch. Okay. This edit is not minor. There we go.
Minor edit. We're just, starting up. Nobody needs to know this.
Yeah.
Okay. I have got it posted.
Hurrah. I'm so tired.
Gonna wait a bit till we're sure people are on.
Sounds good. Looks like we have 3 so far, but yeah.
Just waiting for everyone to assemble.
And no one's allowed to yawn, because if you yawn, I will.
Well, that's a little bit late because
Gee, with all those rebellious spirits in the chat, that's a very bad idea to tell us to specifically not do something. Because now I kind of want to do it just on the sake of principle.
Well, now that we're talking about it, I'm just
So mean!
See what you've done, Chi?
Yeah, questions are working. I don't know how to view the question page, so I guess y'all can read it out.
I can't see it.
Oh, wait, there's a
on the
little
left,
option.
Yeah, on the left side, there's a little speech bubble thing. For me, it's 4 icons from the top that says Q&A. It doesn't say there's any questions in there yet, though, so I don't know if
I put a
anyone's...
question in there.
Cool.
Yes, there is. There is.
The most important question of all.
Daisy says, "Marry me, cheesy." I feel like I'm going to get proposed to every one of these talks.
Until the day you say yes.
I said yes! Okay. Well, I'm assuming enough people are on. So I guess we could start with a short intro or just rambling.
I think we've been rambling, so...
Yeah. So
Get out of here and get out of there. Hey, guys!
Welcome back to another
We are totally not high.
I don't know. With me, you never know, because just walking down the street, you can smell like 5 different varieties of pot, and it's nasty.
Oh.
Yeah, it's in my room right now, the dorm room. I'm like, what?
That's not fair.
No one's even been home for like the past few days, so I know it's like our neighbors and stuff.
Ew, that is nasty.
Well,
Oops,
I
sorry,
guess I
yeah,
can-
tangent.
Well, as y'all should know by now from like our status announcements and stuff, the topic for this talk is going to be Innocence with a little bit of dark matter. Didn't really get the chance to look up too much on dark matter in the rush, but we'll mention some stuff about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just going to be going over like what types of innocence there are, maybe a little bit of history. I've got a huge stash link full of like canon innocence references too that I can share.
I think that'd be a good idea to share, yeah, with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go over terms, headcanons, etc., and y'all can ask questions as usual and topic suggestions.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay. Do y'all want to start on terms then? Get those out of the way.
Oh,
May as well. A good
Yeah.
starting place so people actually know what we're talking about when we throw out weird words.
Yeah, and like a few of them too are more what we'd call fandom terms, which are terms that fans have either come up with or have become popular to refer to something.
Right.
So if you're confused, we'll try to explain it.
yeah.
But okay.
So the first is Innocence and anti-Akuma weapon. There is actually a difference between them, which is established pretty early on, so I won't be surprised if a lot of people forget it. Innocence is the actual fragment, the phenomena-causing piece of magic cube.
Thing.
God crystal.
Yeah.
Also known as the God Crystal. The anti-Akuma weapon is actually what the science department makes it into. So there's a difference between Mugen Cube and Mugen Sword,
Yeah.
as an example.
Even then, though, a lot of times the two terms are interchanged, because I know, for one, it's a heck of a lot easier to type Innocence than anti-Akuma weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something to keep in mind too if you're reading something is I think the majority of people use either or. I guess the easy way to remember it is like the Innocence is the actual fragment, the little cube with the gears around it, which is inside of the weapon that powers it, and then the anti-Akuma weapon is kind of like the shell. It's what chains down the Innocence and makes it workable for either the equipment type or the parasitic type.
Because they mentioned quite early on, especially for the equipment types, that the raw power was difficult to utilize, and so they would have to bind it and turn it into something else to make it actually usable.
Yeah, and for parasitic types, the exorcist body is what actually chains down the Innocence and allows it to be used. So.
And usually results in like their shortened lifespan because it takes such a strain on their body.
And the consumption of food for energy that presumably the Innocence would use up.
Yeah, and one headcanon you might hear as well, this one's kind of like semi-popular, but there's a headcanon that parasitic type users are more, like, they look more frail or thin. I kind of somewhat disagree, simply because we have the example of Suman Dark, and he was short, but he didn't look pale or really thin. So take that with either way.
Wait, is that a headcanon? Because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, you'll see it a lot with some of the more obscure critics, because Corey's tall and gangly, and Alan's short and thin.
But then he's just English, so...
Well, I think the idea comes from the fact that the Innocence draws so much on the parasite type's body that's why they have their massive appetites, and they're not exactly in the position where they can be eating like 24/7. So, like, I guess there is some basis for it, but yeah, it's definitely not true in every case.
And Alan does become quite muscular, and I think Corey's quite muscular anyway, so... They're not exactly, gaunt and, on the brink of dying.
He's got some cheekbones. Okay.
Well, next term, if I can get to it, is the sync rate or the synchronization rate. That's basically the percentage representing how well an exorcist can use their weapon, to put it in quick, easy to explain terms. As Hevlaska says in Chapter 7, it is the lifeline for the anti-Akuma weapon activation. The lower the synchronization, the harder it is to activate, and the user may become endangered, from Chapter 7.
Isn't like the lowest you can go without putting your life in danger about 30%?
I have that one right here, actually.
Yeah, because Lena Lee, when Hevlaska removes her innocence while it's evolving, Hevlaska gives another quote about that.
Yeah, which I'm trying to find right now.
That quote?
Okay, I don't know what chapter this is. It's volume 14, so it's probably either chapter 136 or 137. Hevlaska says her synchronization rate is now below 10%. We should return her innocence to me for a time. I'll restore it to its original condition. And again, this is spoiler alert. This is after she forced it to 100%, and then afterwards it pretty much just completely like crapped out on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got like a few notes on one of my journal guides, but depending on the sync rate level, there are some terms for that as well. Like you've got below 10%, we know that's life-threatening. If it falls to 0%, that's when the exorcist becomes a fallen one. The innocence like consumes the exorcist's life force and just goes haywire, and it's chaos and it's terrible. I think we added more about that in the outline.
Probably. I think that also kind of qualifies as mentioning that innocence in and of itself is somewhat sentient. We see that in how it chooses accommodators, but also the fact that when a fallen one basically betrays their innocence, that's when it reaches 0%, which is basically the innocence saying, yeah, screw you too, and this is going to really hurt you.
Right.
You don't spite supernatural forces. You just
It's not a good idea.
To give an example, too, of what makes a fallen one, Suman Dark became a fallen one when he, quote-unquote, betrayed the innocents, and that was because he sold out a lot of the Order members to Tiki Meek, who consequently killed those exorcists, and that's when the innocents, like, went haywire, and he became a fallen one. And Lena Lee mentions the other cases, which is where they tried to force activation, and the subjects of those experiments became fallen ones.
I
think, is that your writing, Sissy, the underlined?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because if you've got any images, we can show those images too, of the fallen.
I'll just link that.
Basically, it's a headless torso, and it's a pretty easy Google search as well.
Oh, did you want the image for that?
Oh, well, I was just gonna. I mean, we could screen share it, but we can move on too.
Sure. Yeah, we're good.
It's already too late.
Okay, and the other sync percentages where terms come into play are when you hit 100%, and that one is what they call when you become critical. I think that's also a fandom term. Like, we know it's called critical point breaker, but we usually shorten it to critical. At least the fans do.
Again, it's a lot easier to type.
Yeah, and that's when the exorcist has a general level innocence. This just because they hit 100%, if depending on the circumstances, they might not though, because we know Alan, who is labeled a traitor, goes way above 100%, but he doesn't become a general because of his situation.
And then in recent chapters, Tidal revealed that Kanda has been at that critical point or past it for some time now and wasn't made a general.
He was hiding it, yeah.
Yeah.
He probably would have become one if like it had been revealed, but it's also possible to hide it.
Coda's got a question in the DA chat. So do you think the second exorcist could have become fallen ones too if their innocence didn't accept them?
I think, actually, I mean, Mojo, you know a lot about that art too.
Yeah.
The reason why they didn't was because of the regeneration curse. I was under that assumption anyway.
Yeah, I think it could have been possible, but I think what stopped them, like, because the whole reason people couldn't synchronize with the innocents is because they died. And so the regeneration curse basically stopped them from dying and was like, oh, okay, here you go. And they basically did that over and over and over again until they synchronized.
Well, and then I wonder, too, if the innocents wouldn't sense that it's still their same mind. So as far as the innocents would be concerned, it's still the same person, even if they're in a new body.
Oh, and just like a quick recap, the second exorcists are the ones like Kanda and Alma, who had a previous life where they died and their brains were basically transplanted into an artificial body. So, just to get that out there. Hey, Say! What you say?
Yes. Tiki legs. I'm preparing for either a wall of no or a fight me comment.
I think the only other like term that comes into play with innocence synchronization is when a character maxes out, and I think that's another fandom term. Basically, how Lena Lee described it is they go beyond their limit, and not in the safe manner. Like they force full activation. I think is the actual term for it, is forcing full activation, and that's basically like when you have an innocence that hasn't reached 100%, you are not general level, but you are forcing your innocence to activate to that point. And it's supposed to either kill you or have very, very serious consequences, as she says.
Like, quote-unquote, breaking The Exorcist. That's one of the manga that I have here. Let me see if I can find that.
And I've also got some visual references in my stash for it.
Yay, references!
I'll go ahead and screen. I don't have the manga references yet, but I've got Alan's claw when he maxes out, and I've got Lena Lee's really cool dark boots when they max out. They become these giant ass blade things, just sharp, pointy things everywhere.
All right, in the in volume 8, in the official translation, she says innocence maximum power, and then that's when it activates, and that's when she's underwater too. So the official manga translation is maximum power.
Oh, that's funky. That's the English volume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could read like the French or something.
Yeah, I think the online scans still say like maximum sync, or some of the mangas or some of the scans online also say invocation instead of activation. But
Yeah.
I kind of like invocation.
Yeah. It's kind of darker. Yeah.
Okay, that's innocence sync rate.
Well, I'd also like to point out that Lena Lee is at 86%, and even then we only see her use 2 or 3 different abilities. There's Waltz Misting Wind, the Water Shackles, and then it seems like there's something else too.
There was the Sound Shackles and the Iron Shackles.
Yeah, exactly. So even though she's like got a super high sync rate, she doesn't have like 50 different abilities.
Yeah.
And then
that'll also be something like to include with our OC tips later, I guess, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Then I guess I will leave that alone for now.
Yeah, get through the turns because I think we still got a few more.
Yeah. Like
rebound. Rebound is associated with maxing out, or really like for Alan when his arm first gained the ability to become like that arm gun and the weird lightsaber sword thing, because he forced it to fight right after it evolved, his innocence rebounded and it hurt him and deactivated. And after both Alan and Lena Lee maxed out, their innocence rebounded at some point too. Alan's rebounded right in the midst of him trying to save Suman, and his arm was pretty much useless, and then Tiki destroyed it, but...
Well, and then for Lena Lee, after she gets out of the water and fights Eshi a little bit more, he stops her at one point, and then that's when you see the hexagons appearing on her skin, and she says, "The effects of the forced release of innocence are appearing sooner than I expected. I'm breaking down."
Yeah, she was getting those marks on her face and her legs.
And then it goes up her arms, and yeah.
She expected to die. Alan, I think, suspected to die as well. So
the life of an exorcist.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something to take lightly, for sure.
Yeah.
We've got a question. Lobby Lena says, are there any exorcist OCs that are known to become a fallen one? One that has died specifically? I don't remember seeing any. I think I might have read one, but
I don't remember, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any.
Usually what I
Safe
see is
thing.
like they max out and then they get their evolved form. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something else to keep in mind with maxing out. It's kind of a safe formula to go with. For parasite types, you can kind of do what Alan did. The higher the sync rate, the weapon can change slightly. But we do know that after Alan maxed out and then tries to sync with his Innocence again, it evolves, is the end result. And Lena Lee, although it took like 2 arcs before it actually happened, hers evolved afterwards as well. So.
Oh yes, I remember the Miriam one. I can find her. She's the hair one that's not Bunday. You have to bear with me a moment because
Can't hear you.
sorry, I'm finding the hair one, Miriam.
Ah.
But you have to give me a moment because the only place I remember is via Bunbay's. A comment on Bunbay's thingy. There we go.
Oh, am I still screen sharing?
Yes.
Yes, you are, you nerd.
I was like, I don't remember turning that off.
I am glad to see the French version here, though. Thank you, Kodo.
Oh, is this the Egg Nunguin person?
Yes.
I've got the reference of her character on my screen. I don't have her bio or anything, but yeah. I didn't know she was a fallen one. That's really interesting. Oh, wait, yeah, I remember reading about her. Yeah.
I remember her. I didn't know she became a fallen one. That's kind of sad.
I think it was like a 1 or 2 liner in the bio, so it was easily overlooked.
Yeah.
By the way, this person dies, but it's no big deal. You know, everyone does, so... That makes me a little sad. That's one I've had my eye on for a bit now.
I mean, I guess I could show the fallen one on the screen too, because I've got that in my tabs now. But it looks pretty much the same in the manga too. The weird tentacle thingies and torso.
Oh yeah, the anime studio wouldn't have come up with that. That has to be
Hoshido. That is all Hoshido. But Suman is in the heart, ironically enough. Okay.
I know we have more terms too. Let me go back to that page. Oh, and then the Innocence glow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
glow.
kind of
The real technical term for it.
I don't think I'm the only one that's called it that though, because I think Alyssa was using it as well. But we kind of, it just looks fancy when you type it out, but it's basically Innocent Seal glow, and it sounds a lot better when you're reading it than when you're saying it. But what it is, it's that aura, the colored aura around the Innocence weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, mostly what we see is green, but we've also seen blue, yellow, white, etc. And I think that's the most common range of colors, but people have been branching out a little more, including
I would like
myself.
personally to see pink.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I know I'm planning on going with yellow for one, but
I would
Yeah, and like your moves can have more than one color as well, because Alan's arm gun had orange, green, and yellow.
Oh, and then Lavi has fire attacks and lightning attacks, which are completely different color schemes. So
Yeah.
I'm still looking forward to seeing more glowing thingies and the new D.Gray-Man anime.
I'm gonna scream so much.
I swear there was another term and I can't remember it. Oh, the level 2 release. That's what it was.
Oh, you didn't write that down.
I know. I was distracted by your kind of Innocence reference. Level 2 release is like Well, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds.
The
It's kind of
self-explanatory
the
one.
upgrade of attack. You're
Yeah.
going from smashing Akuma with your weapon to actually having, a formulated attack.
Yeah, it's like a power-up.
Mhm.
Lavi's level 2 release is actually the point when he can use his stance, even though he doesn't always call it out.
Mm.
Well, and then too, it's something that we only see with the equipped types, as far as I know. Since the parasite types rely more on their emotions, where the equipped types have to actually command their innocence to do things.
Mm.
Yeah, the equipped types have a much more structured outline for the way their innocence works compared to the parasite types. There's some kind of theory that Alan's gun and sword, which were called cross beta, like his claw was called cross alpha, and his other was called cross beta, so they kind of assumed that was a level 2 release, but even he loses that later. So
Yeah. Well, because he wasn't activating his innocence properly in the first place, so.
Right.
Oh, we've got a question, or at least like a thought from Lottie Lena. Do y'all want to read that out?
I wonder for people who are equipment, if someone could, break or snap in half their innocence, assuming that there is no special protection from the power of innocence itself.
Ooh,
Yes.
I actually have that manga here, the arc when Lavi used his so much that it just shattered on him, and same for Kanda. And then afterwards, they literally carry them around in bags because they can't do anything with them.
Right.
Yeah, especially for equipment types, because they have a forged weapon form. Oh, forged is another term, but we'll get to that. Like Chica said, Lavi's shattered, Kondo's shattered, and they were later reforged. So it is perfectly possible for the weapon, the anti-Akuma weapon, to shatter. If the fragment shatters, you're screwed because you no longer have innocence. But as long as it's the weapon form and not the actual fragment, you're A-okay.
Well, and then that's another thing too that I just thought of, the fact that both for Mugen and for Lavi's hammer, those are in tiny, tiny pieces. Like I said, they are shards that they can't even carry around in their hand, and yet the innocence is completely fine. So I think that kind of speaks to the versatility of the innocence, that it'll do whatever it has to not be destroyed.
Yeah, and Lavi Lena mentions too, yes, the innocence was carried in these little brown bags, and I have the gift set on one of my journals that I can share later, but it's really funny.
And Alan's like, we can fix them, and Konda's like, that guy is a problem. And that's chapter 134 as well, for anyone looking for the reference.
So I would presume that, during the forging process, that the cubes their physical format is changed, and I would say it almost is kind of no longer quite physical in the fact that it's no longer a cube, it is now a sword, and now if the sword breaks, you're still good, but
when Tiki destroyed, well, actually, when any of the Noah, I think the Earl is the one that destroyed Jaeger's, or it was Tiki, they destroyed the outer form first, and then they had the fragment, and I'm pulling up a screen share to show the fragment now. But again, as long as that fragment isn't what shattered, and the only thing that can destroy an innocence fragment is the Noah's dark matter too, just to get that out there.
So in all other cases, we can perhaps presume that it's almost indestructible, even.
Yeah, it's not supposed to get destroyed that easily. It takes a lot of strain and overuse, and it being injured before probably too.
All these pieces have been scattered, they've been put into dolls and windows, and pulled out of the ground. There's probably some in the ocean somewhere.
Remember too that it protects itself, like the Leaf of Revival arc. It was creating these massive storms that people couldn't even survive in order to protect itself.
Well, between that and too, if the innocence form does get shattered. Kanda used that move that like put them back together briefly. I don't know if that's a common thing, but either way, your exorcist is going to be picking up the pieces of their shattered innocence.
Well, and then
Totally intended.
well, and then there's when Alan's fragmented too, and the cloud like followed him to the Asian branch, and it was collected in the room, and he tried to invoke it again. It didn't work, but it still like existed and was still usable.
Okay, I gotta find their X's, or however you pronounce their usernames, comic. It actually, it's really funny about the Innocence fragment, Alan's in particular, after it was shattered. It tells a fan story of how Bach got Alan's Innocence mix into the room.
I was actually thinking about that while
Yeah.
It's
Slurry.
There's also another question from Trash Barbie. If an exorcist is found by a general because they react to one of the innocence pieces they carry around, how does the order decide what weapon to create for them? Or does the innocence piece always form its own weapon, like in Chowdhury's case?
I'm pretty sure the exorcist has a say, just like with the uniform.
A kind of theory on this, because we both see Chowdhury's and Kanda's innocence in its kind of just synchronized form. And it had a lot of the kind of the innocent seal wing things and stuff like that. So we can assume that each piece of innocence has a kind of a base format, which then, so that would be the wing sword and whatever Chowdhury's was, the bracelet. And then from that they can forge it into something that the exorcist can use.
We also see with the charity bell that the exorcist can have a say in it. We got more backstory on this in the anime, but they actually allowed, oh my gosh, his name just escaped me.
Deja Berry?
Yeah, Deja. They allowed Deja to take the bell from his home, and that was what he decided he wanted them to forge the innocence into.
And just to go ahead and explain, foraging is the process that the science department uses to make that put that innocence into an anti-Akuma weapon. Just to go ahead and explain that.
Well, and I think too, because we've seen it so few times, I'm assuming that it's a case of like circumstances, how the innocence finds its exorcist. Like when we see with Chaoji, it like literally activated for him before it had a forged form, probably because it knew that its accommodator was in danger and needed to snap into action, where for Deja we didn't see that urgency, so it didn't force itself into a form that he could use.
Tidal was there too, so...
Tidal was there for both of them.
I do theorize...
Tidal was separated from Choji when Tiki was kind of blasting everything to smithereens.
No, I do theorize that the innocence kind of, you know, in its sentience, has a reactionary power, and that kind of power kind of can synchronize to, you know, people's desires. Because I just feel like that the innocence noticed that Chaoji needed to save these people, and the innocence was like, yep, I'm going to do that, I'm going to help you. And through that they could synchronize. It really, like, I really kind of think it's a little similar to, I can't remember the name of the manga. It was some weird thing where everyone was like half animal. I think it was like Plus Anima, and I think they found out that like the kids turned into these half animals through kind of situational needs. So like one kid wanted to escape, so he grew wings. I feel like it's kind of similar to that, but like that's just, you know.
That's a headcanon I agree with. I've read about it a little bit. Some people have written about it on Tumblr. And basically what it is the innocence is supposedly takes the form of the exorcist's heart and desires. You've got Alan, a clown, obviously. Lena Lee, flying boots, because she was imprisoned practically at the Order, and she wanted to flee.
But also with Alan's, you know, it fulfilled both purposes that he wanted to do. He wanted to save the Akuma and protect humans, and that catered to his will.
And then Chaoji's for having to watch everyone die and finally being like, I'm done watching people die. I'm going to do something.
Like, I think his was, to get the strength to protect these people who have been protecting him for this entire journey.
And the entire time he was saying, I don't have the strength of these people. Yeah. I wish I was stronger.
Oh! And I think also that's what happened with Al-Nakama's innocence, because Hoshina revealed to us through her Instagram that past Alma's was equipment type, but then we see in the Alma arc it fusing with his body, and I think that was it was not a proper synchronization, and it was all kind of messed up, and that's why it kind of is half fused to his body and stuff, and it's all really creepy and stuff.
It would also make sense if Alma viewed himself as a monster at that point, just gone through and murdered everyone at the branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've also got, Alan before he even got Crown Clown, what it was called Cross, for those who may not know. It had various forms, and Bach actually comments after Alan's innocence evolves that the reason for all these forms is because Alan had not made up his mind by that point of why he wanted to fight.
Yeah, I actually literally just grabbed that. The innocence in his left arm was like a rough jewel before, unstable and unrefined. It reacted to Alan's emotions, but was incomplete as an anti-Akuma weapon. Looking back on this previous data now, it's obvious. There's no shame in it. He's only a 15-year-old boy. He's still rather emotional, but that's normal.
Rather. Rather. Okay. A little bit more than rather. But yeah.
But yeah.
That's also something to keep in mind for parasite types, because they're much more in tune and linked emotionally to their innocence. So it makes sense that all the parasite type forms we've seen, barring Suman, are really kind of animalistic or doesn't follow a set standard score. Like Suman's was attached to his arm, and it actually looked a little more equipment, but it was still kind of, sticking out of the body.
Are you okay?
My washer sounds like it's trying to kill itself from the inside.
Oh, see, I thought you were remembering when the innocence blasted off Suman's arm, and that was your reaction, but...
I mean, that is a horrific idea, but holy shiznits.
Oh yeah, and Kodo just mentioned too, when Crown Clown went haywire due to Apocryphos, its form looked very similar to Alma's haywire weapon. And it seems like whenever Innocence goes haywire, it kind of gets those feathers.
Yeah, like it kind of doesn't know what it wants to do, and it's kind of deviating from its normal stuff.
Yeah, Innocence is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I'm really
I'm scared by Innocence.
Oh, yeah, part of it is the fact that it tears off people's arms and creates massive storms and these insane phenomena that people can't even really survive. What part of that is scary?
I think that's fun to play with too, though, because all of the exorcists kind of embody an aspect of the innocence. Like, Alan sees it as a tool to redeem himself. Lena Lee saw it as a curse. Croy thought he was a monster. Choji thinks it's a blessing from Anita. So, something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, their sentience really scares me, and just the way that Apocryphos talks to the other pieces of innocence, that they're live enough to communicate.
And yet you also see Timothy's. Sorry.
Yeah. No, Timothy's is a lot more sentient.
Yeah,
in a different way.
It literally has a face and its own thoughts and stuff.
Timothy created an image of his ideal self, and the innocence reflected that and communicates with him. And we actually have a scene where Tsukikami? Yeah, Tsukikami, or however you pronounce it, that's the personification of the innocence, notices Apocryphos in his human form.
I remember that bit. He kind of looks around and is just like, oh. But then, Apocryphos had left by that point, and so he was just like, whatever.
Yeah, he seemed to try to dismiss it, but he still seemed unsettled by its appearance.
I think Timothy mentioned that
on the same page. Yeah.
Timothy mentioned that as well, I think.
I'd be really interesting to see how that develops in, the current chapters.
Yeah, and between that and that sentience, again, we've had Innocence act on its own.
Yeah. which is so scary.
I mean, we've got we had the build up where Lena Lee's Innocence saved her and crystallized around her, and then Alan's Innocence saved him.
Yeah.
The mist that was protecting him and how it patched the hole in his heart. But we've also got instances where the Innocence seems to take over the Exorcist. Like Alan was forced to attack Tokusa, the third Exorcist, during the Alma arc.
Mm-hmm. There's also a moment when he's fighting the level 4 that it's basically just stringing him around, and it's assumed that Alan is actually unconscious at that point, but the Innocence is using him basically as a marionette.
Yeah.
When we see it earlier in the series too, even when he's fighting against Eliot and she completely knocks him out and his cross alpha activates, and that's something like for the most part we don't see that with the equip types. Like what was it when they were going to Edo, and everyone's like, Miranda, are you going to be okay? Because you can't sleep or your thing's going to deactivate and we're all going to, die.
Sink.
Yeah. But yet we see Innocence, especially Alan's parasite type, save him several times when he's otherwise incapable, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and I'd also keep in mind a little bit too, Alan's kind of a funky case because his Innocence seems to respond with his eye as well.
Yeah.
He's just all kinds of messed up.
He is. Poor Beamsprout.
Oh dear. But also when he first killed Akuma Mana, his claw was acting on its own.
Yeah. Yeah, that was very depressing.
Cry forever.
Well, Alan's screaming at it to stop. Yeah, just another day in the D.Gray.
Another tragic day in D.Gray, man. Forecast for next week, more suffering.
Yeah. Stay tuned. What else do we got? We've got other topics like the different types of anti-Akuma weapons, the different battle types. There's Innocence limitations and cons.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know which one y'all want to go over first.
Wow, why don't we just start at the top?
Also, if y'all mention Sharknado again, I will not be able to get it out of my mind as an Innocence, and it will traumatize me, so please have mercy.
No Shark-kun?
I don't want... I know.
It's like Aquaman, the Innocence.
But I'd like Sharknado is the perfect picture of Hollywood, and I just... No.
Oh, but gee, I'd love to see you try and tackle that. I feel like you could do it well.
I have a bias against Sharknado, so...
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know which topic y'all want to go over next. I know I'm too late. I was trying to ignore it, but y'all kept bringing up Shark-kun.
Sorry, I thought I typed that to Tumblr and there was a picture and I couldn't not.
Well, why don't we just start with the different types of anti-Akuma weapons?
Yeah, do this. Well, we have the equipment, which is, as previously stated, is outside of the Exorcist body, has less connection, partially man-made, usually a weapon of some kind.
The most common Innocence out there.
Yeah. And then you have parasitic in the body.
It has to be in a living thing, at least, because there's also that subsection that's called parasitic beast, and that's the monkey Laojiman. Yeah, from Claude 9.
Yeah. And so it has to be in a living being. The living being is immune to the Akuma virus.
No, living being. It should not be an inanimate object. That is equipment. Just getting that out there.
Well, and if it's a parasite attached to a human exorcist like Crory or Alan, it disguises itself as a human feature. Like Crory's teeth, it like literally pulled his teeth out so that it could replace them. And then
You don't need these teeth anymore.
and then Alan's arm obviously looks like a regular arm, except discolored
and wrinkled and deformed.
and has claws and armored type appearance, but it still disguises itself as an actual human feature. It's not like some weird bony thing coming out of the shoulder or something.
Yeah, then Sumans, we know, blasted off his arm, or his like lower arm and hand, and took the form of this really weird gauntlet thing that it cannot be removed, obviously, because, blasted off his hand. And then Timothy has the jewel in his forehead that was shoved down his throat by his loving thief father.
Parenting done wrong.
But like Mojo was saying, like it's part of the body. It tends to have a higher sync rate, again, as we've discussed before, because it has more of that connection, mental connection, physical connection. And something else to note, too, if you're making multiple characters, or even if you're just writing fan fiction, parasite types are either the word is uncommon or rare. I can't remember which.
Yeah. It's certainly not as common as equipment type, so don't look out like 10 equipment types. Like one equipment. Did I say 10 equipment types and one? 10 parasitic types. The immunity to the Akuma virus is only so much, because on the way to Edo, Crory consumed too much Akuma blood, and the virus was overpowering the
Despite him being a parasitic type and being able to purify it, he reached a point where he was not able to purify it as well any longer.
Yeah, so we can assume that the parasitic innocence has like a rate of purification, and that if you overpower that rate, it's not going to catch up.
Well, and then too, like usually they're probably most in danger of contracting the virus from getting shot, which even if they're immune to the virus, they're not immune to being shot. So those battlefield wounds are still a problem.
There are also
still a hole through your chest.
Yeah. There's also headcanons and theories regarding parasitic exorcists that they can possibly heal a little bit faster, not to the extent of Kanda, obviously, but they can heal presumably a little bit faster, or that their bodies are stronger than normal. Again, that's a headcanon, so take it with a grain of salt.
I can see that, though, because if I remember right, Alan and Crory both get boosts to their strength and stamina when their innocence is activated. So it makes sense that their body's like in hyperdrive and would heal faster from that.
Honestly, Crory, his innocence is located in his teeth, but he uses his entire body as a weapon. And it's listed on the Wikia that he has superhuman speed, strength, agility, you name it. And Alan obviously has freaking ridiculous strength. I mean, he chucked a pillar around during the entire arc. So
there's also he had no elbow and could like bend at random points, and it was just like
Sissy, you had something?
Oh, sorry. No, Crory's seems also mostly to be linked with his blood, which I think would probably explain why it goes throughout his entire body. And then drinking the Akuma's blood.
Yeah, like everyone's kind of like, when it comes to that.
Well, even he gets grossed out when they talk about Lena Lee's dark boots being made of her blood. So, like, dude, you drink this stuff.
But he described the Akuma blood taste as tomato juice, I think.
I think so, yeah. And then Jazz Debbie downed it and was like, this is so nasty.
Also, just like before I forget, because I know I will, parasitic types, as we mentioned, like the better link, I think it was already mentioned they have a higher synchro. That extends to how fast they learn, I think, because Lena Lee had been an exorcist for, 4 years or so, and she was around 86%. Yeah, she was 86% before she maxed out. Alan joined the order, and his was listed at 83%. Despite him not, like, officially being in the field as an exorcist, he was just in training with Cross. So try to gauge the synchronization between any characters, whether they be equip or parasitic around that, and keep it in mind for your characters if you're creating them.
Mm-hmm. And also remember that they each have a bond with the Innocence. Lena Lee was at 86%, but she'd had her Innocence, or she'd been at the Order for as long as she can remember, and she specifically hated it.
Yes.
Alan is at 83%, 3 years since he started using his arm, and he's a parasite type, so it all depends, like, obviously on what type they are, but also their emotions towards the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, their goal, their drive, how they're fighting. Because, I mean, it's not just an anime manga thing. Even in real life, as long as you have a goal, you're usually doing better off than other people if you don't have one.
Well, before we forget, there's one more type of Innocence, and that's crystal type.
Yes.
That's one that I'd like to point out. For one, it's not just it's not something similar to a level 2 release where once they get to a certain point with equip, they can level up to crystal type. For Lena Lee and Conda both, they were physically separated from their Innocence, like basically not the accommodator anymore, or literally not the accommodator anymore in Conda's
too low
case.
to sink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
And then they had to make a whole new deal with the Innocence in order for it to become a crystal type. Just, like throwing it out there. So while it is way more powerful, it's because the Exorcist has a whole new drive. And it seems like in both cases a different reason for accepting the crystal type than they had for accepting the original equip type.
Yeah, Lena Lee wanted to protect her friends no matter what. And
well, Lena Lee's final goal was she made a promise with the Innocence that in the end she has to be with her brother.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that when she was an equipped type, her whole world was her friends. But then when she's a crystal, or when she's basically making the deal with the Innocence for it to become crystal type, yeah, she says, in the end, I'll come home to my brother, and then that's when it liquefies.
And if I'm not mistaken, Conda's has an association with Alan because of what Alan did for him in Alma. It's like paying Alan back.
Yeah, he didn't want to die with any regrets, and he, after Alan had helped him through the Alma arc, he regretted how he had treated Alan completely and wanted to go make it right because it was his fault that the 14th Noah was released.
Because he kind of stabbed him. Thanks, Conda.
GG, Conda. Good game.
One thing with Conda's, though, is the fact that even if it is connected with Alan, for some reason he seems to be experiencing a backlash after turning into a crystal type.
And that was a development also mentioned by Hoshino, and me and Chi were discussing
I've got the page pulled up.
So to become crystal, one must take the cube must liquefy, and then they must drink their Innocence. Their Innocence then exits their body via a bloody crystallized
stream of Niagara Falls,
The Exorcist reforges the weapons themselves into a new blood crystal sword or boots or whatever, what have you.
And it is red because, blood.
And they have at least 2 so far, but then
crosses.
We've got to remember that this Innocence form is still quite new and we still don't know a lot. And so they have 2 stigmata crosses on their body somewhere.
Lena Lee has it in front of her ankles, and Conda has it on his lower arms. I've got that picture up right now, and I can link it in the chat.
And Hoshino revealed through her Instagram that the stigmata crosses are constantly giving them pain, causing them pain. And so what me and Chi were discussing yesterday was that is what Kanda's experiencing in the recent chapters where his arm is giving him physical pain, and he's literally having to, he's having a physical reaction with the rest of his body. It's that painful.
His veins are popping. It's
it's kind of gross. And And so we were wondering, is that this constant pain, or is he having accelerated pain because of his current situation, his relationship with the Innocents, what he's doing with the 14th Noah, or the presence of Apocryphos? Because you've got to remember that the Innocents reacts to the presence of Apocryphos, and we've seen that with Tsukikami and Crown Clown, that they each time they react. And so is Mugen doing the same? We don't know.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, again, a theory headcanon thing. I think there was a mentioning of a worry about him becoming a Fallen in the text. I don't have it on me, so I can't remember at the moment.
I don't believe that. I have a feeling, I believe that that is just a worry.
Yeah.
And because, you know, you've got a new Innocence type, and then it's hurting, and you don't know what's wrong with it. And so, of course, the first thing you're going to think is, am I becoming a fallen one? Am I close to dying? Or something? Because the Innocence is sentient, and, you know, the minute you kind of do something that the Innocence doesn't like, e.g. hanging out with a Noah, it's going to be like, hold up, man.
On the run with a Noah, even if your intention is to kill that person once they become a Noah.
Yeah. The Innocence is still like, kind of hold up, you know, take a step back. This isn't what I agreed to.
And this is really wild too, because you got to remember both Lena Lee and Konda were equipment types. They've got a whole new connection with their Innocence. Lena Lee comments on it when she's fighting level 4, like, oh, I didn't have to order it around. It read my thoughts. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, she was flying up way higher than she expected.
Yeah. And Konda's feeling pain now because of his. So something to play with, possibly.
Konda's attacks, like, recently, like, I remember when he was killing the teddy bear one, he was literally like, whoop, 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 and it was just like massive explosions, and I was like, okay. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah, and that's also something to keep in mind, too, like, between it being stronger, obviously, it now being more linked, the attacks are slightly different. They're a lot stronger, obviously. The design changes slightly, I've noticed. Like, Konda's nightmare, bug, monster things are...
Yeah, it was a lot less horrific, and it had a cross on its head, if I recall correctly.
I could try to look it up, but, yeah, like, so if you have a character, or you're writing a fanfiction where a canon exorcist who has not evolved yet evolves, that's something to keep in mind, like, all these changes that occur and things they're experiencing, because, again, we still don't know much about it. This is all we know, so you gotta work with what you've got.
Well, and then also we see in both the cases where a canon has become a crystal type so far, it's after a massive release of energy. Konda, I can't remember the battle exactly because I only recently bought that manga, but Konda like put whole hog into that battle against Karma or Alma Karma. Lena Lee literally forced full activation, and that's why she couldn't use her Innocence up until it became a crystal type. So it's not like someone, you know, can just get up to 100% the way that the generals did, and then it suddenly becomes a crystal type. They have to like. I wonder then if it's not showing the Innocents that they are willing to go above and beyond, and then that's when it's like, maybe you are ready for this.
Well, we know the canon commentary. The assumption is that that God wants them to be stronger, the Innocents wants them to be stronger. You have it. I've also got, just for those who were still on the previous conversation, the new insects are on my screen. But, where was I going? Now I'm distracted.
I'm sorry.
Right. Fudgesicles.
Increase more powerful attacks.
Yeah, we went over that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you lose track.
No, I lost track because I showed the really creepy insect things. I'll probably remember at some point.
Sorry, I was looking at the Q&A at the time, so I just like heard none of that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, we had like 3 questions in the Q&A.
Oh, cool.
On our new Q&A that we just now discovered.
Yes, because I stopped being a derp and was like, what does this do? Bink! Oh, it works now.
Oh, right. I remembered. Yes. Sorry.
Oh
okay.
my gosh, yeah, that's great.
What
Go
I was
before
going
you
to say
forget.
is I've written about this before in journal guides, but just because you're a crystal type does not mean you're a general.
Yes.
Lena Lee evolved, and yeah, she's freaking powerful now, but she's not a general. Alan's been, or not Alan, but Konda's been hiding his general level for a while now. Before he even had crystal type, he was a critical point breaker. He was just hiding it.
I don't know how he was hiding it, because the way that he was killing Arkema was on a completely different level to literally everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, he was always pegged as one of the strongest exorcists. But
yeah.
whatever.
Apparently the orders higher command are really dumb.
But that's something to keep in mind. Like, it does not automatically equate to general, and that's been a misconception that I've seen before. So,
yeah.
But yeah, these questions in the Q&A chat from
Yes.
Luann is, plus, if I recall, hold on, do you, I think it goes bottom first, do you think that characters can have more than 2 crosses? Kanda and Lee both lost their innocences before turning crystal, so could you have your OC max out before evolving? And, plus, if I recall correctly, the stigmata are always there, right?
okay.
The stigmata are always there, yes. It's
Mm-hmm.
like having a tattoo, but more permanent, because it's engraved into your skin.
And
Well,
you
it
might not
hurts all
see
the
Lena,
time.
you might not see Lena Lee's very often because she's wearing the thigh highs, but once her innocence does activate, you can see them.
Mm.
It
And
also
I think,
seems to suggest that, that they've mentioned that the innocence will repair itself whenever it's in the crystal form, so it's kind of indicative that those will probably reopen if the innocence gets damaged and needs to repair itself.
Which is probably why it tingles, or why it hurts all the time.
Yeah.
Also, I think Hoshina mentioned that when she revealed like it hurting on her Instagram, that it kind of had almost a crystalline appearance.
That's why it was named Crystal, yeah.
Yeah, like but on the actual stigmata, it was kind of like it had a sheen. It was quite.
I like that.
It wasn't just like tattooy. It was more,
Or like, a deep scar or something. That'd be something to
I can't
definitely
remember
look
the
up.
exact translation. I'm looking at you, Koto. Please provide me with that translation.
I might have to play around with that next time I draw a Delphis crystal type.
And just to answer really quickly about do you think the characters can have more than 2 crosses? Personally, okay, I say no simply because like our 2 examples are only 2 crosses, but maybe we'll be proved wrong later. I just feel like you should follow the formula that's present at the moment, since we still don't know much.
I don't see the reason why anyone would have more than 2 crosses.
Well, and I would think that there wouldn't
bleed out and die.
I would think there wouldn't be any less than 2 either, because Konda has 1 katana, he has 1 sword, and yet he still has the 2 stigmata. So I would think that 2 is pretty much the number. Plus, the symmetry looks good. So
yeah.
And it seems like where they're placed is kind of opposite of each other. Like you've got both wrists, or both ankles, and then both lower arms. So that's something to keep in mind.
Like I could possibly see, especially if it was towards the center of an exorcist body, for the sake of this, symmetry, to have like 1, on the chest or something.
That might be.
That's a good question. Yeah.
But I'd say for now, stick for 2. Wait for some more information, really.
Yeah, not only that, but like most equipped types are wieldy anyway, so you shouldn't really run into an issue where you find yourself stuck. Like, I mean, even if it was like on the torso, you've got 2 sides, You
could even do the chest and the back if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even then, though, like, we're always all experimenting with different things within DGM, so if you want to go with 1 or more than 2 on, like, the basis of it being experimental, then that should probably be fine, too. Just, like, as long as you clarify that, you don't see this happen in canon, so it's just your own thing that you're trying out.
Headcanon. Yeah. And, if you're in a situation where you're doing something that's a little different, just call it a headcanon.
Yeah.
You shouldn't get shit for that, but I've been wrong before, apparently.
People shouldn't attack each other, but we know how that goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Razy mentions, yeah, but Kanda uses 2 swords later. Technically, 1 sword is made of energy, and it's a
it's an
moveset.
illusion because his thing is the illusion, 8 illusions.
Yeah, I can see like where that possible connection is, but my argument is that it's, like Mojo says, an illusion, an energy sword.
Like it was called. It was
Second illusion,
let me
I think.
find it was that was his thing. That it was an illusion. Maybe because his whole life is an illusion. let me scroll down.
Well, he sees the flowers.
Yes, it's first illusion, Netherworld insects, double illusion sword, which is the Nigento. And so that is literally an illusion energy blade.
Yeah.
Just looks like the other one.
Right, we had like that other question too. Kanda and Lena Lee both lost their innocences before turning crystals, so could you have your OC max out before evolving?
Well,
I think
did it, so
that's definitely right, because, I mean, Kanda...
It's heavily implied that he has maxed out his...
Well, his hair kind of went poof!
Super Saiyan.
With that innocent static.
Innocent static, yeah. So I think that's a solid theory that they probably have to max out. Because Lena Lee maxed out, and then she got it, and Kanda presumably maxed out because Super Saiyan.
Well, and on that note, too, I think it would be highly unlikely for a general to become a crystal type because they have reached 100% sync with their innocence.
Well, not to become crystal necessarily, but...
Well, true.
Didn't.
True, exactly. But that's just my headcanon, though, that a general would not become a crystal type.
Yeah.
Well, there's also a chance for the generals, our current generals, to become crystal types because that's addressed in Kamei's talk to them.
I would be surprised if the Order started experimenting, like, with that and trying to get other exorcists to become crystal types because...
I think as long as Kamei's there, it's probably not going to happen too soon.
Yeah.
But
that's what I was just thinking, is that Kamei's not going to let anything like that happen again. Though if Central goes above his head, then he doesn't really get much say in the matter.
Well, Alma, the third exorcist, got above his head because that went on a different continent.
Yeah.
I don't know if he even knew about it, though, did he?
No,
well, Reaver went there.
No, until...
It was already done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until Bach and stuff came, and that's when afterwards Reaver and Johnny went to the American Ranch.
Yeah.
In
fact, I'm pretty sure that Kamui didn't know about it because Rennie shows up.
That's why Bach was, furious and stuff because their families had agreed not to play with human life like this again, and here they are dragging up, the mistake that killed his parents and putting it back into action. And
I forgot about that. I loved Edgar. Edgar was precious. I loved him.
Oh my god.
That's what Hoshino sounds like every other day.
The fun thing about having read that arc so much is that I just remember all these things so vividly, and everyone else forgets them, and I'm just like, hey, do you remember the sad thing? Suffering!
As if our own minds don't remind us of the suffering enough.
But yeah, I remember what I was going to say, because it would make sense for the Order to want to get people to crystallize, because obviously it seems to be the best way to go about being an equipment type, seeing as it's a lot more powerful. But obviously it's a difficult process to replicate, because so far, it's been through great turmoil have Lena Lee and Kanda become crystal types. So
it has a bit of a formula too, as we discussed. Both Kanda and Lena Lee got a set goal. They maxed out before they completely went over the limit, and they'd been exorcists for a little while.
They had a little break. They took a well-deserved vacation.
I've actually got in my notes. One of the guides I wrote again, how long they were exorcists. Kanda has been an exorcist for 7 years, Lena Lee for 6 years, give or take.
And also his previous life.
Yeah. I think, considering the recent events, it wouldn't be surprising if someone with slightly less amount of years got crystal, just because with the events speeding up, naturally people are getting stronger faster. But I would definitely be wary about like an exorcist only being an exorcist for a year, suddenly getting crystal. Like that's pretty wild.
Yeah. You have to put them through a lot of suffering to get there. I'm just trying to find this translation.
Yeah. Well, considering we don't know much about crystal, there is kind of enough to work off of, unlike parasitic beasts. Little bitter.
looks pointedly at Cloud9.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the banes of the existence of people who have a parasitic beast character, is that we basically know squat about them.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot more difficult territory to navigate.
I mean, basically the only consensus is, it's in a living thing that's not the actual exorcist, and presumably the exorcist either trains it or also has a link to it. That's like the synchronization.
And like, how does that like link forge?
I don't think it is forged. I think it was already in the animal.
Like, but how does it connect with both Human and Cloud? Like,
I think
which one goes first?
Yeah. Like I said, it's kind of been a question for I don't know, 10 years. Basically, like, we know that Claude was an animal trainer before she became an exorcist, so presumably the monkey had the innocence in it. She trained it and she synced with it. So I would guess that it's a little similar to Equip. It's like a distant kind of sync. But again, that's an assumption because, hey, we don't really know shit. I think that's for the actual, like, concrete types.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find this translation. But going through Tumblr archives is not enjoyable.
Yeah, and I unfortunately don't have that manga. That's volume 15, the first one that I ever bought, and that I, for some reason, decided to leave 66 miles away.
Oh, hold up, I have 15. Which one are you looking for?
I'm looking for the translation of the Instagram picture of Kundalini. I might have reblogged it to the badly drawn one, which is probably why I can't find it.
We caused so much Edgar angst in the chat.
I am eternally laughing at that.
Mojo! Bad mojo.
I'm already Satan for Slate, or Lavilina. So this isn't, much of a greater step, really.
You're still not as much sin as some other people, though, like that fic you were telling us about.
Or Hoshina herself.
Oh my gosh, are we really only 30? We've got 30 minutes left before 2 hours. I knew this was going to be a huge topic.
And I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface.
I think we might have to do a part 2, honestly.
We can do a part 2. I can't do next week, but I can do the weeks after that, probably.
And I also just remembered to, again, this might be a translation thing, but while I was rereading the other night, Hevlaska mentions I'm a little bit different from the other types.
Yeah.
And we do know Hevlaska is a very strange case. Like, she's synchronized with the cube that gave the prophecy and everything, and she stores the innocence, but she mentions that she's a different type. So I don't think there could probably be a completely forced different type, but I think the one that holds the cube is, like, definitely different.
A little bit more special snowflake than the rest of the special snowflakes.
Well, there's that, but then there's also ones like Apocryphos that is completely sentient in and of itself, and we don't know if there are others like it.
Yeah, Apo-chan, something to remember with Apo-chan, too. Like, the translator, the scanlators call him Apo-chan because it's shorter and it's funny. But,
and it's easier to say.
Yeah.
Apo-chan is canonically, again, like Chica said, a sentient innocence that claims to work for the heart. I'm assuming it does.
Yeah.
But it's not controlled by an exorcist. It is sentient. It is acting on its own or by the will of the heart, and it's being a complete douche and stalking Alan around trying to become one with him.
Well, it's something I thought of earlier, too, that I was just now reminded of. Innocence reacts so violently with Applechan that we can assume that if Applechan works for the heart, that Innocence would probably have an even stronger reaction to the heart. So I think it would probably be unlikely for the heart, whatever it is, to be existing within the order already as it is, because I feel like the other instances would.
I actually have a theory about this because.
Yeah, once you give your theory, I can give like the canon info we do know about it.
I do have a theory that the heart hides itself.
That's canon.
Not like physically, but like disguises itself even more by appearing a weaker Innocence. I mean, I'm currently somewhat theorizing that Lavi is the Innocence, but the heart of the Innocence. But
well, he needs to find his heart. Okay,
yeah, and through clues in the manga, but obviously it can possibly be a red herring. But like Lavi is like so much weaker than like everybody else. And it kind of makes sense to me that the Innocence would appear weaker when it's invoked, as to act as a decoy, because obviously if you see a really powerful Innocence, you're gonna go, oh shit, that's the heart. Let's destroy it.
The entire half of the manga too. It's like, oh my god, that person's the heart. No, that person's the heart.
So when Lily crystallizes, counter crystallizes, you go, oh shit, oh they're really powerful. What if they're the heart? And that takes attention away from the real heart, further protecting it.
Yeah. Oh my god. Again, like there's a conversation with the Noah family. It's actually, I don't know if the anime actually covered it, but it's definitely in the manga. It's the scene at the end of the anime. The Noah family is discussing the current events, kind of that recap. And the Earl comments that the heart is very tricky. It hides, it disguises itself. It's very good at what it does. And that's canon. And for those who need a brush up on what the heart is the fragment of innocence that, if destroyed, it will destroy all other fragments of innocence.
What I'm curious to is what its actual powers are.
That's the main goal of the Noah family, to find the heart. So.
Yeah, no, I'm really curious to as to what the powers are, because we hear so much of what will happen if it's destroyed and why it shouldn't be destroyed, but we don't actually hear a lot about what it actually does. Like, does it have any other special power?
I think there was a translation that actually said that, again, this is a translation, I don't have the official, but it said that the previous dude that defeated the Millennium Earl used the heart to do it.
So, it's the
we knew it's strong, apparently.
Yeah.
Whatever strong that may entail.
It's the OP piece of innocence. The OPest piece.
Yeah, it's definitely like a fun topic. Like, that's been something that's been discussed ever since it was mentioned in the manga, in the anime. And everyone's tried to tackle it in some way or form.
Yeah. Oh, this manga intrigues me so.
Okay. Let's see.
Sorry, I went silent. I found that scene you were talking about with the Noah talking after the attack on the Black Order. And yeah, pretty much all I found is what you said, but then there's also the thing where the Earl says they think the Akuma are merely weapons for killing. They don't yet know their true importance. That's good. But if they learn, so will the heart, and our plan will be doomed.
I actually had a response about this on Tumblr.
Yeah, we had a huge conversation about that on Tumblr, and I think that is something to say for like the dark matter Akuma conversation. Because it's a lengthy one, and I can give kind of what was discussed since I was a part of the discussion, and so was Sissy. But yeah, again, the heart has the answers to a lot of things, and that's why we don't see it yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like Cross. Cross has all the answers to the 14th, but then he goes and presumably dies. Thanks a lot, man.
Joan also has the answers. Hoshino, getting rid of all the people with the answers.
Yeah, we've still got like a few other topics to cover, but we can do a part 2 again. So unless you want to do like one last subtopic or answer any questions.
Do you want to do questions? We'll see if we've got any questions first, and then and check the Q&A thing again.
Yeah, keeping great track of that. No, we've got no.
I've had it open for a while, and there's nothing new.
No, send us the new things, ladies.
Yes, ask us things, please. We need more to blabber about.
Yeah, 'cause I know like a few topics we didn't cover are pretty long, which is the Innocence limitations and cons. And Chica, you've got the suggestion of our theories on how Innocence chooses accommodators.
Oh. Yeah. Do we want to do that like in a different thing or here?
Whichever. We could also do like battle types, because that's short too.
Yeah.
Battle types should be fun.
Lavi Lena says, and I quote, D.Gray-Man, the series where you are so close to the answer, but it gets taken away. Razy, I'm already married to you!
Also, D.Gray-Man, the series where you keep reading, hoping things will get better, and they never do. They only get worse.
If they get better, it's going to turn sour very quickly.
Yeah.
If it gets better, it's just like a little victory, and you know, it's insignificant in the entire series compared to what's going on.
Happiness is an illusion.
One thing I definitely want to discuss next time is like Innocence we've seen done a lot, because as the other hosts know and Razy knows, the other night I actually did a DeviantArt search for how many D.Gray-Man fan characters have wings. And I counted legitimately 35, and I haven't even gone on Tumblr yet or Google to do extra searches.
Yeah. Wings or like wings in the name for the Innocence?
No, like actual wings, and half of them are all feathered.
Yeah, see, that's why when I was coming up with Raphael, I specifically came to you and was like, hey, Chi, how can I put an interesting spin on this?
Yeah. That's just like, a quick fun fact, and we'll expand a little more next time. But Seichi says, and I quote, DGM, I'm having so much fun. 2 minutes later, haha, bitch, you thought.
And it almost makes me feel bad for getting college friend into DGM. But at the same time, no, the world needs more misery.
Bad. Just laugh so much.
This is the best misery I've ever seen.
Right? That's why you've got to laugh, because you've already gone through it. You're already suffering.
I'm still suffering.
Well, I remember my roommate too commenting like, "There's a lot of comedy in this." I was like, "Yeah, it's because they're all going crazy, or they're gonna go crazy if they don't have some light fun."
That is awesome.
I get to laugh at all the people who unsuspect what's going to happen in the anime.
I almost feel like we should warn them, but then again, we never got a warning either, so let's just leave them to their fate.
Just watch them lose their shit and just laugh so much.
Oh, there's one thing we didn't really talk about. It's the evolution for parasite types that don't result in general level. Sorry, I made that weird noise. But there's another misconception that once your parasite type evolves, they become general level, which isn't true because Alan's evolved 2 times, and he wasn't a general until it evolved the 3rd time, where he got a sword.
Yeah.
So yeah, rip to the people who haven't read the manga. But Alan, as his sync rate got higher and more goals, wishes, etc., he got his cross beta form, which was the gun and the lightsaber sword. And then when he maxes out, again, if you max out, it doesn't automatically equate to general. He gets his innocence back as Crown Clown, and that's like a full-on evolution. But he does not hit critical point until later when he gains Sword of Salvation. So that's something to keep in mind if you have parasite types or are writing for canon parasite types.
And
not only that,
sorry.
You go for it.
Definitely the kind of emotional state of the Exorcist, lends to the actual development of the parasitic innocence. And I like the idea that a lot of them, especially the younger ones, don't activate it properly. And so it has this, form that isn't quite right. And you can see that in the form. It's quite grotesque. And, all kind of wrinkly and weird feathers and hexagons and all that shit.
Alan, in a reverse novel, I'm assuming it's reverse novel 4, I can't remember, but he mentions that his arm was numb and stiff and hard to use for the longest time. Like, he had to practice getting it to listen to him, basically. And Lena Lee's not parasite type, but, like, for equip types, she mentions after her boots are removed that they were extremely heavy. They hurt her feet. So.
Yeah. I really love playing with like the actual physical effects of the Innocence.
I feel like we can do like a whole little section on that too, because there's so much to talk about.
Or a whole big section, because we see how even accommodators can't handle just raw innocence.
It's just too powerful for them.
Yeah, and it's especially dangerous to normal people, humans, because Anita fainted when she got too close to Lena Lee's when it was going all crazy and protecting her.
Yeah, she literally says let me see if I can find it. If I remember right, she says, my head hurts, sounds of song, I'm breaking.
Sounds of song?
That's what sounds a song.
Like a song, S-O-N-G?
Yes.
Sorry,
like
I'm having a fanfic moment. You're like, yay, songs!
Yeah, it's like Aria song, is it Ariana song? Is Kira's mom?
Oh, well, that's like has to do with my fanfic, but there's a prominent theme of music regarding both like any sort of abilities. Like you've got chanting for sorcery or magic, depending on which you prefer to call it, and you've got the Song of the 14th, which controls the Ark, and the Earl has to do a song to control the Ark and play the piano. So the fact that Innocence has a song makes me excited. Sorry.
Ooh, okay, I can see that now. Oh, yes. Oh. I just got idea.
We're all going, oh my
god. So I feel that would make a lot of sense if it was kind of communicating like via song, but it wasn't a song that could be perceived by humans.
I was going to say, because we've heard it ring before. Like, there's that noise.
And like the only reason that Anita could actually perceive it at that moment because it was in such a kind of raw form.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting.
And like you have, especially very early on, the aria of the Old Man in the Sky, was it? With Lala, Doll.
Lala was singing. Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of all that arc really kind of foreshadowed a lot that goes on later.
How long did Hoshino know this stuff?
There's hints of all sorts of smaller details that easily get missed, as we just noticed.
Like I completely missed that point. It was in the anime that I noticed it, but it was when Tap Dot was dying and everyone was crowded around him, and then it flicks to Kanda, and he like kind of makes a face and walks off, and I'm like, what? That moment kind of just like stood out to me at the time, because I was just like, why are you switching to Kanda? Because even though Kanda knows Tap Dot, he has like no friendship connection like everyone else does. And then I looked that up in manga, and in that moment, there's all the speech bubbles surrounding Kanda, and it's all just like the others like scientists and like kind of finders and stuff going, oh my god, about Tap Dot. Oh, he's not human. Why are they even being like that? And it's like, oh shit, because that's exactly how Kanda feels. And so Kanda is like really pissed because that's really striking a chord with him, because he doesn't feel human at all. And I'm sorry I'm rambling, but like this was such an oh shit moment for me.
Well, it relates. Because you can't just rely on one material. You have to read the manga, too, because those positions are important.
Yeah. Because, like, literally, it was surrounding him, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not pick up? Because, I mean, I've read the manga before. Like, as soon as I finished the anime, I collected the manga. But, you know, it's... And also, like, with the whole Alma thing, and the, you know, that person, you know, everyone always kind of attributes it to that one off-key line in the Lala arc that he says, you know, I won't die until I find that person. But, like, and everyone kind of thinks that's the only foreshadowing, but there's so much more.
Well, and looking at those specific words, too, I just found that page, and it says, you hear? Yes. Human? No. Human. Monster. But no. Awful. Awful. Tap. Those are, like, the different words in the speech bubbles.
Yeah.
Awful is said in two different ones. Human, like, suggesting things that are inhuman or precisely monsters shows up several times in these. Damn it, Mojo, as if I wasn't already hurting enough. My heart was not ready for that.
Oops, okay, yeah, and also, if we get excited, like, if we start talking too fast, just mention it so we can slow ourselves down, because Razy just commented that she had trouble hearing Mojo, because...
Yeah, sorry. I talk too fast a lot.
Oh, we're sort of off topic, though.
Yeah, but we're kind of close to closing anyway, so...
Yeah.
Well, it's still D.Gray-Man, so at least we're that close. It's not like we're talking about, like, rainbows or something.
Oh, gosh, and we need to talk about two Innocence, too. Just to remember, like, people with two Innocence or people with dual-wielding weapons.
Yeah.
Cross is our only example.
Next time can probably be the OC tips and things to consider. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was more like an overview of what we see in canon, and next time can probably be more addressing for OC stuff.
Or headcanons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking over our notes, and I think we covered most of it.
Yeah.
Maybe in a roundabout way.
Yeah. But again, sorry, the outline for this time was kind of everywhere, so...
This week has been everywhere, so you're all good.
Yes.
So again, like, we mentioned stuff that we still need to talk about, but any suggestions y'all have that you want to hear for the part 2 on this? And again, we'll try to cover dark matter. But that's honestly like a huge discussion as well that will probably take an hour, especially with the new revelations about the Akuma. But
this manga gets me every time.
One thing I do want to address for next time, though, is like the whole ripping off thing, because
ripping off has to be its own video because there is so much to cover on it.
Yeah.
Touche.
And speaking of, just a forewarning too, is I know I can certainly speak for myself and a few others. The whole ripping off and copying subtopic, or actual topic for a video, was voted highest next to Innocence and Dark Matter, and the reasoning behind that is because it's happened a lot and it's kind of been a prevailing problem. So when we get to that video, just a forewarning that it might not be a very positive video.
It is a necessary one, though, because...
It's very necessary.
Yeah, it's going to be a very salty video, but it's going to be done in the hopes of bringing that issue at least to people's minds, and if it's addressed, then hopefully people will stop doing it and will result in a more positive fandom. So it will result in positivity down the line, just the video itself will not be so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, like, again, we're doing part 2. When's the next time we're going to be able to do part 2, theoretically?
Because I can't do next week, because I'm going to give my mother love. Not in a weird way, though.
So we might have
so
to...
So that'll be the week after that for the part 2 of Innocence?
Week after, yeah. Week after, this week.
Yeah.
Because, the week of the 12th of...
Yeah. I mean, we usually try to set these on a Friday, and the backup plan is a Saturday, but sometimes it doesn't work out. So.
Yeah, because I have stuff I gotta do. Cry.
Yeah. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, real quick before we end, a shout out to Boy Sorry, who you may hear us call Princey or Prince Early, for giving us such great and helpful feedback. Because again, I know some people are shy, or they think, you know, we'll just mention it in chat. But having an actual comment that us as the hosts can look back on and see what we're doing right, what we might need to improve on, is extremely helpful for these talks. Like, if you feel like something's not happening that should be, we won't know unless you mention it.
Yeah.
So.
And we probably won't remember if it only happens in private chats, unfortunately. At least I know that I have the memory of a granny, so having that public comment where I can go back and look over it would definitely be helpful.
Yeah.
Right. And just rereading stuff is really helpful to kind of get it in your mind.
Mm-hmm. And having that record there so you can go back. So we definitely encourage, even just a one-liner like, y'all are doing well. Like, we need to know because we have no idea unless you mention it.
Though it is like already really cool to know that people enjoy coming to it, and you know, this is our 4th one, and we have a pretty consistent crowd, so that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
And thank you for always watching.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you to those who are going to go over it afterwards, too, in case they missed this one.
Yeah.
Mojo's ready to go.
Well, it is
late for you, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's 5 to midnight.
Ooh.
And
you call that late? You stay up way later than that, woman.
I'm trying to change my schedule and go to bed on time, but it doesn't always work.
I'm trying to change her evil ways, and we are completely messing with that.
Is basically what I'm saying.
But yeah. Also, again, like in the comments or any feedback we might get, if you prefer Fridays or Saturdays, I think Fridays work best for all the hosts. But if Saturday is an option, we can do Saturdays. So
yeah, it'll probably
prefer
like
to have it on Fridays.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to get it done, but yeah, like I don't know. Today is working out well.
Yes.
I'm just also really glad that for the most part we all get it done. So then on Saturdays I can sleep in and be a complete derp and play Dragon Age all day without having to worry about forgetting something important. Yes, precisely. Cartoon day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that will be it. We look forward to any feedback we may get, please. Thanks. I'll include the timestamps. I don't know if I'll get it done tonight. If I don't get it done tonight, it might not be till Monday or Tuesday. But I will try. And I'll include links. I'll include links to the stash folders I was using as well. So that's it.
Guess we'll catch you guys next time then.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.